I think a lot of people would agree with me when I say that the White Russian isn't a great drink. The widely adopted recipe of 2 parts vodka, 1 part coffee liqueur and 1 part cream is too boozy, the vodka brings nothing, and then the cream and the ice melt together into a weird mess. The White Cuban, however, improves things drastically. We switch out the vodka for Cuban rum and actually use an equal parts recipe of 40 ml of Cuban rum, 40 ml of coffee liqueur, and then 40 ml of cream, so we get a much more balanced drink. I also like to shake the drink over ice before fine straining into a frozen coupe glass, so we don't get that weird ice melting in the drink, but we also get a really nice chilled drink with nice aeration. And with all of that, we have a pretty damn good drink. Today we're going to take inspiration from this, and I'll show you the drink which I think is the best drink I've ever created in this particular category. I think a lot of people are going to love this drink, so without further ado, let's make some coffee cocktails. Alright, welcome back to the Coffee Cocktail channel everyone. I'm Dan Fellows, and today we're going to be sharing the next level White Cuban. So just like a lot of my other recipes, this is much more of a template. I really encourage experimentation, add in the flavors that you really enjoy into this drink so you can really make this your own. I think this is actually a really powerful recipe that a lot of people are going to love for 3 reasons. Number 1, it's a fairly low ABV drink with only about 20 ml of spirit with the base recipe. Number 2, it's a fairly low caffeine content for a coffee cocktail with just a single espresso in there rather than a double you might find in an espresso martini. And then third of all, this drink works with both dairy or plant-based milk, and I'll show you how both work in the video. So hopefully this opens it up to a lot of people who'll really enjoy this. So this recipe actually doubles up and makes 2 drinks, so you can enjoy it with a friend or enjoy 2 of them. And you're going to need a few things for this. We're going to need a double espresso or a very strong filter coffee. We're going to need Cuban rum or any base spirit that you want to use in the drink. If you prefer a sweeter drink, you might want to add a sweetener to the drink, such as a sugar syrup. You can use all different sugars for this, or potentially a liqueur to add a different flavor character to the drink. And then finally our secret weapon, which is our freeze distilled milk or oat milk. And I'll link at the end of the video exactly how you can make this. Equipment wise, we're just going to need a jigger, a set of scales and a blender, because we're taking inspiration from those really nice aerated Freddo-style drinks you get in Greece. And you're also going to need some rocks glasses in the freezer, so they're really nice and cold. So this is really a drink of 2 halves, and the first half we're going to build inside our blender cup. So first of all, we're going to go in with a 40-gram double espresso. And with this, I'll be looking for a kind of chocolatey, nutty flavor profile for this particular template, but you can use any coffee you want to. As long as you pair the flavor profile of the coffee with the other ingredients in the drink, you should get something really interesting, and you can experiment with that. If you don't have an espresso machine at home, that's totally fine. You can go to a coffee shop and buy an espresso, bring it home and get really good results, or you can even use really strong filter coffee at a push and still get a really nice kind of texture in there, just maybe not quite as much intensity as espresso. I really like to use espresso in this drink if you can, because it really allows that coffee to cut through in the final drink. And then what we're going to do is add 40 ml of Cuban rum. And I'm using aged white Cuban rum, Havana Club. But again, you can use literally any spirit that you want to here. Just pair it up with the other ingredients. And if you want to make this your own, you could actually infuse this. I've tried drinks like this infused with vanilla, which is really, really nice. You could totally leave this here, blend it up with ice, and then serve it with our freeze distilled milk. And you get the natural sweetness from the milk, and that'd be a really delicious drink. But if you have a bit more of a sweet tooth, you can add a sweetener to this. You could even add a liqueur to this, and add a little bit more sweetness, but also some complexity. So in terms of sugars, you could go for something like a white sugar or a cane sugar syrup. You could also use muscovado sugar, coconut sugar, whichever sugar base you want, or even a honey or an agave. Or to make it even more your own, you could add a liqueur here, maybe something nutty like an amaretto, or something raisiny and kind of rich like Pedro Jimenez, or even something plummy with those deep red fruit flavors like umashu. There's literally no right and wrong here, just make sure they all work really nicely together to create a harmonious final drink. One thing to be mindful of here is that you don't add too much sugar, because we're going to be layering this drink, and if the top layer becomes sweeter than the bottom layer, then it's going to really struggle to float. I'm going to go with 10 ml of a straight cane sugar syrup, which is around about a 2-to-1 ratio from Monin, just to allow the coffee to really do the talking. So this is all ready to go. I'm going to leave this to one side and start prepping our glasses. So this is where we get really interesting. We're going to be making 2 drinks. I'm going to grab my frozen glasses now. And as I said, this is a drink of 2 halves. So I'm actually going to make a dairy version and a non-dairy version using oat milk. So what you want to do is add 80 grams of your freeze distilled milk, which is a 25% concentration, so really concentrated. We're going to put this into each glass. You want to make sure this is pre-chilled because we want to get the drink really nice and cold. Now we're just going to leave these to one side, add our blender cup to the scales to make sure everything's really nice and cold, and I'm going to add 80 grams of ice to this. I know it's tempting to eyeball this, but I would recommend weighing this just to make sure you get the appropriate level of dilution. So the cool thing about this is I was recently in Greece and I really enjoyed those Freddo-style coffees, which are really kind of foamy, aerated using the stick blenders. But what we're going to do now is just blend this in a regular high-speed blender or whatever blender you have, and it will add that really nice moussey, foamy texture. So now this is really nicely blended. You can see it's taken on that foaminess. All we're going to do to finish the drink is take a bar spoon and then float this down on top of our freeze distilled milk, adding about 80 grams to each drink. Floats really beautifully. It's a very striking looking drink. And that's our dairy version, but you can also see it works perfectly with freeze distilled oat milk as well. And there we have the next level white Cuban. So I think they are pretty damn cool looking. You get the really nice separation between the foam, the espresso which then settles upwards, and then the milk underneath. We've got the dairy version and then the plant-based version, and we're going to taste them both. And it's not really my place to tell you how to drink your drinks, but with this one I do have some very clear recommendations. So big sips so that you get all of the three kind of layers coming through. You get the nice foaminess first, then the intense coffee, and then the sweet milk coming through after. So I recommend drinking quickly and fairly vigorously. So here's the dairy version. Cheers everyone. Exactly that. It's really super complex. The milk kind of lingers, but then you've got the nice coffee flavor in there as well, and the foaminess. So the dairy is delicious, really, really nice. Let's try the oat version. Cheers again. Taste-wise, it's fairly similar. Texturally fairly similar as well. You get coffee primarily, which is the big flavor, and then just that round sweetness after. So there we have it, the next level white Cuban. So if you want to learn exactly how to make freeze distilled milk and what makes great milk, you can click just here. And I really hope you've enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed making these drinks. And if you found value in it, you can subscribe to the channel, which really helps me and also helps you get notified for new videos, which I'll put just here. So thanks very much for watching. Enjoy your white Cubans. See you soon, everyone. Cheers.